Okay, welcome everyone to the March 31st iteration of the MicroProfile live Hangout. The meeting minute link should be in the notes. Can someone paste them in, please, now that we have most people joining? And it is everybody's shared responsibility to take notes. When you join, when you load up the notes, add your name to the contributor section if you're on this call. Organization name is optional. And let's see here. Did I miss it? Oh, the meeting is being recorded and the chat will also be saved. Okay, so it will be on the internet forever. Let's see here. I think that's mainly the spiel. And I think I will begin here with releases. So not really a whole lot in the details of the releases. One of the things that has popped up that Mike added to the Google group is the fact that we're going to need a working group required for a 4.0 release. And we could do
you're not sure yet.
FYI. Oh, thank you. That's one thing I forgot to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share my screen here.
I love seeing everyone's faces, but we need the share screen. So
see, I get both because I have 3 monitors here. All right.
So
Google Chrome, here we go. All righty, everyone see screen?
Yep.
Acknowledge, thank you. Oh, yeah, Kevin, I gotta make you co-host.
Yeah, it's
before
too small.
I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll fix that. Sorry about that. And Kevin, you are now co-host. And I will change the font size. Thank you. Okay, so we'll cover that in the working group section. One additional thing that came up, we were talking about, I have added open tracing to the list of specs to track. Make sure that's the right milestone. Again, everyone that's in the spec groups, make sure these milestones are linked to the correct one. A little bit more discussion going on about whether or not open tracing is included in the core. So Rudy, are you okay? Because you were kind of going back and asking questions about open tracing being in the core specs, or sorry, in the 4.0 release. So did you have any other comments?
No, I was not sure if it was really decided or that we were just discussing if it would be included or not. Or so that was a bit confusing for me that apparently we did decide that we keep open tracing in the 4.0.
Okay, so I'm gonna give ourselves a hand slap here. We did decide that. It was done verbally, but I'm not sure if anyone actually took a note on that in the meeting minutes. And this is why the meeting minutes are so important.
I don't think anyone did, and I was in the conversation before when we asked Andy to use the forum to get the feedback. But I think we were going to use this call to close it and add it to the minutes.
Maybe. Okay.
So that was that was what was decided.
So I think at this point, unless there's pushback, we are going to include open tracing. Our meeting thumbs up. So what I am going to do, ION O in 4.0. I don't know what's going on with my keyboard. I've been having this problem. Okay, blame it on the keyboard. Okay, that's really all I have right now for 4.0. I will be bringing up 4.0 again when we get to the working group discussion. Any, oh, I think I added one more thing here. Oh, this is kind of, well, it's not, I don't know if it's related. Maybe I'll bring this up. So there was a call in the Google groups for feedback on the 1.2 JWT spec, but there's no link to a pull request. I went and I took a look and I wasn't sure what to link to. So if anyone on the call is working on the 1.2 spec, providing a link would help for others to comment on the PR.
So I'm not sure I'm following that, John. Is JWT 1.2 part of the 4.0 plan?
Well, here's my thinking. If it's a major release, well, that's actually part of the question. So if it's a major release, I'm assuming all the specs are going to have a major version number. So one of the questions I had was, let's see, it's going to be a major version number because of the updated dependencies to the Jakarta dependencies, right? That's why we're doing this all in the first place. So all of these specifications, let me pull it back up here. Oh, darn it. I don't know what I did here. I think I have to go back. Okay, I'll do it this way, I guess. Sorry. I thought I had that tab open still. All of the component releases should link to a major version number. And so JWT 1.2 is obviously not a major version number, so that is actually an open question. And one of the things I meant to ask. So,
but we are planning to switch from the Java X to the Jakarta namespace. So yeah, probably it needs then to be these 2.0 instead of the 1.2.
Wait.
No.
We're not changing the namespace.
I mean the dependencies.
Okay.
yeah.
Just wanted to
Okay.
be clear.
Sorry.
I thought for changing the Maven coordinates is not classified as backward incompatible changes. It is like for other specs, I know for config and for tolerance, basically we literally, because we introduced some backward incompatible changes, irrelevant to the rebase against Jakarta EE 8. I mean, I know for REST client, because they want to change the Maven dependency scope. I think for JWT, if they don't have any other backward incompatible changes, it's okay for them to release the 1.2.
That I agree with that assessment, Emily.
Okay.
Well, I've been doing some work on the JWT side of things, and one of the things that I've been seeing is there's been a lot of pushback on issues that might do backward incompatible changes. So all the release and all the versions being planned to not have any backwards incompatible changes.
I'm looking at the PRs. Which one is the PR that
Yeah.
that is the one you want review on?
This is the problem I had, which is why I didn't link to one.
But let's see, you had one in the minutes.
Right.
No, the link was just to the Google group
Right.
discussion.
Oh,
I-
okay.
I think when I read it, I thought is the kind of this is a heads up. See, they are going to do a 1.2 release. Then I thought maybe it's a link to the milestone. If anyone have any questions regarding any issues, basically this is also my suspicion. I mean,
I guess the comment that I'm
guessing. I
making-
don't know.
Yeah, the comment that I'm making is, what is it that needs to be reviewed? What has been done to be reviewed?
Exactly. So I mean, I don't want to over rotate on this now. So
Yeah.
if someone here works on the JWT specification, then please provide a link to what it is you want reviewed. Right, and is 1.2 the target for the 4.0 release? Is the second question. And I will also reply to this, or if someone can reply to this basically with these two bullets to the Google group thread, that would help. Because I would like to understand if this is what's being targeted.
Okay, I will do that. Let me
Thank you very much.
do more multitasking here.
What is the essence of the change?
I don't know. I mean, we don't know what the PR is.
Can
So,
someone
you
just
know what?
say,
Oh.
"Hey, Roberto, you're working on it. Tell us what's going on in the spec quickly."
Again, I mean, only that's being done is really small changes, nothing compatible. So
What are
that's
the small
why.
changes focused on?
I mean, a couple of configurations to support cookie-based JOT sent on the request, injection of empty optional, empty JSON web token, a builder.
Encryption,
Sorry?
the encryption stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, everything is not really backwards incompatible. So I'm guessing that's why
I'm looking for,
Yeah.
I wrote the 1.1 text, for example. So,
Hmm.
I was looking for technical information. So there's encryption support. So I see builder stuff, but it's tagged JDB 2.0.
Some tags are not right, actually.
All right, I'm
Do-
gonna put a pause on this. Again, I apologize. I'm gonna try and just manage the clock here.
You get a little bit more
Yeah.
organized.
Let's continue this discussion in the Google group. Hopefully, Emily's gonna paste this in there. So hopefully we can continue the discussion there. But these are the two outstanding questions. Okay, Ken is asking. So I added this one. Is the OpenTelemetry team meeting right now? And if so, we need to add a link to our header here, right? Because I was curious.
There is no spec right now, so I'm saying no.
But the spec might be being worked on.
No. There's
Okay.
no implementation to define a spec from yet. So an implementation needs to
Okay.
be worked on before we can spec it.
Okay. Not applicable. Okay, resolve that one. So that's really all I have right now for the 4.0 release until we get to the working group discussion. So miscellaneous, we had about 15 minutes left here.
I wanted to say, John, we didn't consume the retrospective on 3.3, and I thought the document you wrote was great, and I commented on it, but I see that we have not consumed it, and we should be using some of the feedback already into this newest release. But I see us not doing that. So I wonder if we need to resend that document and make sure that we are applying it to current release. Because why would we do a release and use so much tactical effort and not really make it as a stone?
Yeah, I removed it from this agenda. It was actually in the last one too. We should do that, but we haven't had a chance to talk about some of the other topics. So the other meeting, sorry, I think it's all the way back here to the 17th.
Yes.
Yeah, we had this. So we should discuss it. But the two things I wanted to do, one was to give the marketing folks some time on the call. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't expect this JWT topic to take so long. So I have to do a better job at managing the clock. So, I mean, we could add it back to the agenda for next week. Or if we want to, if we have time, I just don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about
Not today, but I think next call, let's add it back. You're leading that effort. I don't want to own it for you, but I thought it was great. So let's bring it back for April.
All right, that's fine. So I'm going to just briefly mention this. So Tanya added a Google group entry just basically saying, hey, there's a developer week, virtual developer week, and we have, the opportunity to, I think propose sessions. And the reason why I'm adding this, it's like, do we have any concerted effort, since we're all working at home now, we don't have to travel anywhere. Is there any opportunity for us to go out and submit talks to lots of virtual online conferences? The folks, this is just a note to the folks that may not normally travel to talk. This is a good opportunity to not travel and talk. So I thought I would about MicroProfile. So I thought I would bring that up. We don't necessarily need a lot of discussion on it, but I just thought it would be a good thing to mention. All right. Let's see, Ken. I asked Ken to maybe just provide a quick summary of this thread because I thought it was pretty interesting. Again, we could discuss this maybe in the Google group, but this gets back to maybe tying into the growing pains discussion and all that we need to continue here once the working group stuff gets a little bit more vetted. But Ken, do you want to maybe just provide a quick overview of this?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, it's discussing the idea that although we originally had the plan of specification releases being kind of feature driven and platform releases being time boxed, we've kind of ended up with both of them being time boxed in that we find the specifications are releasing a week or two before the platform is released. And that kind of has a knock-on effect for some specifications I've seen where any kind of discussion around breaking changes is only discussed in the few months leading up to the June platform release because that's when a spec can break stuff. So the whole idea is to whether that is causing us some problems and whether we need to consider dropping June being a defined breaking change release and go to a more, what I think we'd originally envisaged, which was when we have a couple of breaking change releases, okay, we consider doing a platform breaking change release, but if there's only one, then maybe it's not quite time. So that's kind of it in a 30-second nutshell.
Well, that was a
Sorry.
really good summary. I think only you can write in minutes. I mean, wow. Great job.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's in the Google group, but I thought it was interesting enough to maybe just bring up here. And this could probably generate a half-hour of discussion, which I'm trying to kind of hold off from because I want to give the marketing folks some time because they haven't had time the past few calls. So just go ahead and take a look at it there. In that thread, and I guess Amelia / Ryan / Cesar, however you guys want to divvy up maybe the remaining topics. Amelia, you have one on the Dev MP and then marketing, and we have about 10 minutes.
Go ahead, Ryan or Cesar, whomever is here from those updates. We use Git. So, Ryan?
Hi, guys. Just from my side, real quick, you can see a couple issues here that were put out and scheduled for some ebooks that the community did. And they've been scheduled out for the marketing media push every other, both of them week till the end of Q2. So you'll see them on Twitter, and if you haven't read them, that's it from my side.
Ryan, your audio or internet is breaking up.
Really? How much did it break up?
I'm not sure if it's my internet then, because I heard every other word.
It broke up
Yes.
for me as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we scheduled these two issues, a media push for both ebooks written by some contributors, two different contributors. Both of them already wrote blog posts about it, and they've been put out. And you can see every other week, each one will go out once a week, just promoting the ebook. And if you haven't read it, take a look. It'll be pretty good. But that's it from that side.
The names of the contributors are Phil from the ebook and Harry Sisek, also ebooks. Both of them use different methods. Sisek went into compiling all the blogs that he started writing while learning MicroProfile. And then everyone knows how that book came to life as we use the forum. And now the book lives under the PRs and is a living document. The one is frozen, and it was frozen at the end of this year, at the end of December, so now it can be pushed. And he is working on the latest version that might be updated by the end of summer. With Phil, he is right now actually working on compliance for 3.3, but that is with his employer. But the book is his project and the level of what he's doing. And he has videos and cheat sheets. And it's just so cool because it's divided into a bundle. And this is going to be pushed, like Ryan said, it's all done directly with them through the Git issues that we originally used. For anyone that is planning on writing stuff that is not only a blog, but it can be compiled into an ebook, do use the Git, just push it, because we have the media to push it, and that is zero cost. It's just enabling everyone that is in that Git to know what you're doing and just push the data. Everyone wants to learn. So MicroProfile is fun and simple, and we want to lower the debt. So that is mainly the huge project that was closing the closest Q1 for MicroProfile marketing.
Okay, are there any other marketing topics?
Ryan, from the marketing call yesterday, is there anything?
Nothing that I can bring up, honestly. It says they're on the call?
No.
No? Oh, oops. I expected him to probably bring up a couple topics, but nothing from my side.
Yeah, that's all right. We're not trying to force. I just thought since we haven't had updates, if there were more updates, we could give them. So this was a good opportunity for the marketing folks to share. Okay, maybe what I'll do is switch over to the working group discussion here. And I will pull this up here. Sorry, you guys might hear some dogs barking in the background. Work at home, work at home. And holy cow, here we go. So Mike basically sent out a note saying that we, still need to create a working group. And he's got some guidance here. And what I'm hoping that we could do is kind of apply this guidance and set a stake in the ground for ourselves to come up with a working group proposal for the MicroProfile 4.0 release, right? To kind of usher this discussion along. So his guidance is basically more or less what you would expect around the requirements for creating a working group at the Eclipse Foundation. So vendor neutrality, conform to the working group process is number 2. Number 3 is we have to be in full compliance with the Eclipse Foundation spec process. And he provided some examples with Sparkplug and ASCII Doc and taking a look at what they've done. And the 4th one is that the foundation is willing, I'll just read this one, is willing to support the request of some members of MicroProfile to be allowed to implement a compatibility branding program, which does not require membership in either the Eclipse Foundation or the MicroProfile Working Group. To that end, we'll create a MicroProfile compatibility trademark license agreement, which any party can sign. This agreement will require certain quality metrics be met, the passing of the TCKs, and be in compliance with the TCK license. Any party which wishes to use the MicroProfile compatibility must be a signatory to this trademark. So one of the things that we had talked about, what this basically means is we were wanting to get the MicroProfile logo out there far and wide. And I know David has brought this up, I think, on calls where it's like we lost a lot of opportunity with the Jakarta APIs being used all over the place, but because there was no really branding way of recognizing that. Those like even in the Spring community, you use a lot of Java EE related APIs, and there's no way that they can say we use Jakarta APIs from a logo perspective. So this is kind of provides a way for us to have, I think, a compatibility logo, but also have a logo that says we use in like using the Jakarta, sorry, the MicroProfile APIs. All right, so these are the 4. So I don't know if anyone else has any comments around this, if you've read his proposal. or not proposal, but his message.
No, thank you so much for, he sent it today?
This was, I think, a couple days ago. This was on March 27th, so 4 days ago. I think it was Friday then.
Yeah, but every time that someone sends something on Friday, it just gets missed. So thank you so much for bringing it to this call and the consumption. I think it's helpful for everyone here. And plus it's videoed, so.
Well, the only question I have in terms of that, those 4 points is there any feedback from people from the Eclipse Foundation on what the minimal cost differential is for a specification project versus an open source project as the basis for the minimal fees?
Okay, so I'm going to clarify that just a little bit for folks, is the way Scott is asking. If you're not familiar with the working group structure in MicroProfile, with being a working group member, there can be, and I think at this point must be for a spec group, a participation fees, right, involved, depending on your level of membership, right? The fee will change. So along with the size of your organization. So there's a fee involved. So what we're trying to,
Is that mandatory?
What was
that?
Is
that mandatory, John?
If you want to use the compatibility logo, the answer is yes. For you to participate as an individual, the answer is no. I think that means being a committer to specs and stuff. If you want to be an organization that is contributing to specs as a member and be a committer, I think the answer is yes as well.
Well, it's a function of what level you're participating in. If you want full participation, if you go back and show Mike's message, there was a statement that there needs to be a fee structure. There are ways to participate in specification projects for you, regardless of your size, to do that at $0, but you don't necessarily have complete access to marketing and steering and specification committees. I mean, again, we can define the rules for that, but the bottom line is there's a statement here claiming that we have to have some fee structure. And when we've had discussions on this in the past, there's a claim from the Eclipse Foundation that there is a cost that they need to amortize. So again, my question, that's the basis of my question, is what is the basis for that, that incremental cost relative to running this as a pure open source project?
Yeah, so Scott, you totally nailed it. I'm confused because thus far I believe that the current PR that contains the working group, what we dream of, will keep MicroProfile as close to as it has been for the last 4 years. That means the full control and branding will be to this community. We're not going to give money to hire bodies to do the work. Plus, I am extremely cautious of asking anyone that is already dedicating resources, human resources, to go to the marketing side, to be requested to pay to play, right? And I am also super wary of having a committees, diverse committees, where privacy comes into effect and what is public today goes into private mode. That would absolutely kill the access to those ones, the newcomers, and also it will make MicroProfile be absolutely a waste of time for those ones that are really interested in open source and how things are done publicly. Dirt, nice, and gold, all done from the start to the end. So that's like, Scott, you totally nailed it. I'm also very concerned.
Yeah, on the privacy front, there's nothing that I know of in the working group process that says that the steering group committees have to operate a certain way.
Right.
The only thing that's defined is that there has to be some kind of regular, I think it's maybe every 6 months. It has to be at least a steering committee meeting every 6 months, that you're moving the project forward, that you're reviewing issues. How it's conducted, private, public, is not specified. So we could do it however we want.
I would be interested to know what the cost is that we have to cover, and where does this cost come from? So,
and where is it going to go? I want to know how the money is going to.
It's just a simple request. Let's clarify what is the cost, and what do we have to cover?
If we have to cover it, I'm still.
No. There's a statement being made that there's a cost. So what is the cost?
Yep.
What's the minimal cost that's there? right?
Mhm.
Where
So
does it
let's
come
use this
from?
forum.
Hold on. Where does it come from? And what do we got to cover? If the cost comes from conducting votes and things like that, then we've had this discussion in the past that we would prefer to do them in an automated fashion or just create tools. We don't need a human person to do these types of tasks.
Yes, and we want to control it.
So
also.
anyway, we just need to figure out where are the costs, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe we don't want to operate like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm looking through the attendee list here, and Ivar, it looks like you're the only one from the Eclipse Foundation. Is this something
Tanya's
that you
here.
can kind of follow
Oh,
up?
Tanya's here.
Oh, Tanya, I didn't see her. Okay. Sorry.
Tanya, yes, that's like. Mhm.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
over,
I mean,
always
I
over.
cannot answer anything, but
Well, let's let Tanya finish her sentence.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just joking. I said Kevin always overlooks me, and I was
No.
joking. That was just a joke. Sorry. Go
Well,
ahead,
it's
Ivar.
ironic you couldn't even finish the joke.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
Well, I mean, I did
Actually,
post
Ivar.
that question out on the Mike's
Yes.
MicroProfile working group thread. So, I mean, the question has been posed.
Yep. And, and it's been posted in other documents too, the umbrella working group document. And
Yeah, I have posted it twice, and I even used a get issue from Jakarta asking for
I
transparency.
don't think there's any work
Right.
for us to do on that item until we get more clarification on what the fee, what
That's
cost
fine.
we have to
Right.
cover.
And so that's all that I was asking. And now that I see that Tanya's on, either Tanya or Ivar, if you could kind of, maybe ping Mike or somebody to try to get some of that data, I think that would be appreciated.
Yep, for sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
so-
much, the two of you.
Yeah.
I have another, sorry.
Go for it, Emily. No, you go for it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have another question related to this fee. I know Scott proposed the fee in the sandbox based on how many employees per company. However, in in Eclipse Foundation, I have seen like a few fee structures from like Jakarta, Archidog, and Spark Plug. They're all based on the revenue. I also would like to clarification. If we set up this fee, if this fee is needed, do we have to like based on the revenue, or is it okay to based on the head count?
So just a comment, and I will definitely go back to Mike for further qualification, and his word would be the word of law, if you want to put it that way. But from what I can see, like it is the working group organized itself and defines their governance model and committees and steering committee and decides on the revenue, right? So I think he just provided two examples that you can follow or may choose not to follow and give different proposals.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a little bit up to us. Once we have, I think from the Eclipse Foundation, what the minimum fee is, it sounds like we have some flexibility in how we address that fee. Is it based on corporate revenue, employees, or whatever?
Right.
Well, and it's also if we, if it's a smaller fee, we could just split it evenly. I mean, and not disclose all this data.
Hopefully we can Venmo it.
Yeah, I mean, and we would probably want some discussion if what's behind that number, so.
And one of the coolest things is that I would like to know, because sometimes, like David pointed out something so important, the privacy of our members and also how they wish to dedicate their resources to the project itself. Some prefer to dedicate human resources to do things. And this is huge because many times, instead of paying money, someone's like, I will dedicate 3.5 resources to this 24/7, and increases as we see it, depending on the task at hand. We should push for that. And my philosophy always is that some of us could afford it a little bit more, some of us could not, but we can play with it. The most flexibility we get to whatever we do with the working group and how the worth and value is described, it will depend on what we hear on the cost and also how we want to apply it. Even when we hear it, we need to be creative.
Well,
And
so just to comment there also, Amelia, so there is a requirement for each of the group, at least within Jakarta. I don't want to go all working groups, that, you know, in addition to financial obligations, depending on the company revenue, there is a additional requirement for the manpower. Of course, again, I think you have the ability to give the proposal the way you see fit, but you know, that doesn't exclude one or the other or both, and the proposals can go back and forth and worked on it, can be worked on it. But it is up to the working group, and the transparency here in terms of who does what. I don't think we necessarily in any of these groups or you necessarily need to disclose the financial obligations of each member, but you can certainly, if you think, again, you can define transparency the way you want, but you can certainly, you need to put out the rule, what people should expect when joining the working group.
Tanya, that's fantastic. That is fantastic summary of what you currently see on active working groups, which is so helpful, and you summarize it beautifully. Thank you.
Could I get a quick clear, when you go back, Tanya, to ask about, you know, what are the fees that have to be covered, can we get that broken out between one-time costs versus ongoing costs? Because I'm sure there's going to be some one-time costs for the simple act of setting up the working group and getting the agreements reviewed by a lawyer, but that won't be every year. That'll be the first year. So if we can get some sort of idea of what the one-time cost that we would have to cover to set up our working group, and then what would be considered to be the ongoing costs separately, that would be really, really helpful.
I'm gonna throw in one additional request, and that is that you know, with the recognition that we're going to try and do this in June, and I have to plug in the dates still, with the recognition that we're going to do this in June, that if we can get some kind of fee structure, maybe within, let's see where we at, maybe within a month. I'm just trying to put some kind of time frame on it, because we also have to draft up the working group proposal, which we want to have for, this is my opinion, for a June release.
So can we say Q2, end of Q2?
I just have concerns about trying to do too much stuff alongside the Jakarta E9 release.
Well,
is that release is still on time? Because you know,
if it isn't, this won't help.
I'm sorry. I see all the emails.
I definitely want to get this wrapped up ASAP, but you know, so anyway.
You know, here we have Kenji. Kenji, what are your thoughts about the working group? What you have heard so far while in the emails and things like that? Do you have any thoughts on like timing? And you know, you represent a super good partner, and yeah, I do not know if we have not allowed you or welcome you to speak. Usually we force you. That's the goal.
I think the concept of working with is good for OK to promote branding. So I think the establishing the working group is preferable as soon as possible. But I really concerned about the relationship between Jakarta and MicroProfile. So Mike Milinkovic proposed the umbrella working group, but right now I am interested in only MicroProfile in Jakarta, but Umbrella Working Group insists that in some future, the Umbrella Working Group will add some new working groups. So in that case, I suspect we need to expand our area other than MicroProfile and Jakarta. So in that case, I'm concerned about how to use our working group budget other than MicroProfile and Jakarta working group.
That's the reason that we prefer them to simply have their own budgets.
Yes.
Correct.
And if you want to join, you know, the scenario you describe becomes more complicated when a bunch of new people are added to the umbrella working group and then begin just becoming the majority vote and taking in a direction that we may not want to go. And so, you know, it's easier for people just to say, I'm interested in this technology, I'd like to join that working group, and that thing makes its own decisions.
Keep it independently seems
and it has its own budget, and people aren't going to be there if they don't really want to be there.
And they are not attached or forced to continue supporting something they are not interested in because they want to be a part of something within the project. So Kenji, we hear you in Web Plus One. Tommy Travis plus one on that.
Anyway, so we know we're creating a working group for MicroProfile, and we have run MicroProfile as much as an open source project as possible, meaning we don't have like a budget. If we need something, one of us just buys it. You know, like we buy a lot of shirts. IBM buys a lot of shirts. We all just put in funds when they're needed. So, you know, certainly would be within our interest to try to keep it running it as an open source project like that as much as possible. And so figuring out what it is we can do with the budget, I think is a good thing. That message has been heard. So thanks, Tanya, for going back to look at that. What other items do we need to touch on before we figure out what is our next steps for this topic?
John,
right, I'm muted. Yeah. Well, I was going to see, are there any other kind of voices that haven't had a chance to speak yet? Want to
throw someone else on the bus?
Yeah, want to weigh in with thoughts or ideas? Okay, so I think I'm still under the idea or hope that we can have this done for the 4.0 release. Right, I'd like to put a stake in the ground. I'm willing to throw my time and effort at coming up with, you know, a draft, working with others to come up with a draft that we can communicate around.
You're talking about, John, you are talking about the draft for the working group.
Yes.
I'm happy. If you create the doodle and you make it public view, and then you ask for volunteers, and only the volunteers have edit access, then we can, you know, I would be happy to help as so many others. But, you know, it needs to be done like, you want access to this, you need to say it in the forum, and then you get it and everyone see what we're working on. That would be my recommendation. But, you know.
Yeah, from my perspective, it would, this is getting into technicalities, but be a Google Doc. Again, this is just the way I like to work versus pull requests.
No, yeah, but Google Doc will be perfect.
Google Docs have comments and threads
and so we could, you know, for those people, I mean, obviously anybody can comment. Coming up with a core list of editors is fine. Mm-hmm. So that we can edit on a, you know, have a core set of editors that can modify the doc. Otherwise, it gets unmanageable.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking like 4 or 5. Because you're alone, it's just too much work. That is unfair to you. You're awesome. So no.
All right, why don't we why don't we refine there's a doc that, well, there's already a proposal in the Git. And so I think what we should do is just revive something of the sort and try to prepare something for comment.
Yeah, in the form of a charter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you look, when I was comparing a lot of these, not a lot of these, but some of these working group charters, they're fairly boilerplate in some cases. In some cases, obviously, it's going to be different, right? So if you look at the way things are laid out here, it's the way it'll be laid out for a MicroProfile one. Just keep in mind that it's really nice to have some understanding of these things right here, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, some of us have looked at them more than others. I wouldn't call myself an expert at all, but I've dug into some of these. Others may have looked at them as well. So it doesn't, you don't have to be an expert on these in order to edit the doc or edit the working group proposal, but it helps if you're willing to, right? That you're willing to go and research kind of what some of these requirements are as we come up with things like voting, right? The way that we do voting right now, they all kind of, most of these defer to elsewhere in terms of how voting is conducted. We might decide we might want to do voting a certain way. That may require us to go look at some of the other processes and stuff to figure out what we can do around voting, what we can't do around voting. So my only point is just be ready to be able to, dig through some of these existing frameworks and documents that we'll probably have to comply with.
Yeah, I had a look at, sorry, John. So I had a look at Oxydoc. I think it's this case, we can take this as an example, just like a baseline and then replace it with MicroProfile. I think it's kind of, this is not very complicated, looks like it. And the other things when you said is about MicroProfile 4.0, you just means the draft ready by June. You didn't mean in the 4.0, we all the implementations need to certify their implementation against the TCK and etc. So the bullet point 4 in Mike's.
I would ask that question differently. I would say, do you mean that we need to have a working group thing ready and Eclipse completed any legal work necessary for us to actually sign and form the documents?
I think, in something that is, I'm hoping that the Eclipse Foundation, so, Ivar or Tanya or whoever else may join this call and follow along, or even participate.
And by the way, a board approval would be required, and that means you have to get on a slot. So, that's fast.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's what you're talking about, right? Because what has to happen is that the charter has to go up before the board. The board does not like to be given things the week before the meeting.
It takes a month.
Okay. So I was on the board, and I specifically also did not like to be given a bunch of materials the week before the meeting. I'd like to give them so I had some time to review them. So to get a slot on the board calendar with enough time for them to be able to review, we should be polite and give them at least 2 weeks with our charter before we're asking them to vote on something.
But usually there is a conversation, so it takes about a month.
And then we have to get the legal work done so people can actually sign the document, right? I forget which order that goes in, if it's the legal work happens in the board vote or not, I can't remember. Definitely the charter has to be there for the board vote. And then in terms of getting legal work done quickly, if you ask a lawyer to work fast, it's way more expensive than if you say, I've got like a week or two.
Okay.
So we're saying that June is maybe too soon. It can be a
I mean, we
soft
can work
deadline.
for it, but it's, you know, just say that there are other people involved,
Mhm.
and so if we want something to be done by June, we have to be finished by, like, you know,
May.
end of April, middle of May.
That's not
And
doable.
yeah, so anyway, just giving some color to the bottleneck, to what happens after us.
Okay.
Actually, even getting, just to get the initial approval according to the process, it looks like you only need the executive director approval to get it into the incubation phase.
That is a new rule that just happened last year, but I'm not sure that is what we want. You know, my preference will be for the board to be, even if they are not required, they have the flexibility and they are
I
welcome.
don't know what I'd have to look up the details on that.
Yeah, so that's something else. I mean, kind of like John was just explaining, there's a lot of ins and outs of all the different process, and that's what, you know, we're going to have to take a look so that we understand it and what's required.
Yeah.
I just put a link into the chat on where I found the process.
Kevin, can you add it to the minutes?
I could do that as well. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're saying really June is too tight, but we can say soft deadline, and you know, we continue to talk on these calls. And didn't we decide last week that we will use these calls for working on the documents, and you know, tackling each section? And I think that is, you know, once we have a draft, I think that is helpful to move forward because it makes us active and not forget what needs to be done. But I think we should be kind to ourselves and understand that it's going to take more than Q2 to complete this. And I'm okay with this. Is this group okay with this? And those ones that are not in this call, once they listen to it, are they okay with this? Because that is what we have and what we have to work with.
Right, and I, you know, just to put a little bit more on this, I mean, I think we have to have a goal. I mean, you know, if we look at how long everybody's been working on this, and now last week during our call, we decided, okay, let's move forward with the working group. And so now going through that process of trying to develop a working group charter, I think it's okay for us to be driving for this, you know, 4.0 release, because that is something that is, you know, kind of required by the Eclipse Foundation. But like everyone's been saying, if the process doesn't allow us to complete it by June, okay, well then so be it. Then it'll be later than that. But I still think it's worthwhile to put it out as a stake in the ground.
Yeah, a soft. You can say like a tentative. If the word tentative is not before June, I get worried because signatures and what we say matter.
I think you said it well, Kevin. So anyway, we should definitely work towards just you know, like matter of the practicalities required to get everything actually in place for everything to be signed and all that stuff. You know, may be difficult, but we you know, giddy up.
So you know, this is unrelated, but when we were talking about the MicroProfile 4.0 release, and Emerson agreed a month ago to be the next volunteer alongside with Edwin, who is in leave. How is that going? Because we have forgotten to ask him. Like clearly he's in the back in the truck lines, like getting hurt.
Okay, that's a different topic.
But John, I totally forgot. I wanted to.
We have 3 minutes left, so let's, John.
Yep.
How are we
So,
wrapping?
yeah. So before we wrap it up here, I'll put out an initial draft. It'll provide a little bit of color based on, you know, again, to Emily's point, this is a fairly templated kind of thing. We'll stick out a template with a lot of empty stuff, some stuff with color put in. I'll do that before the end of the week. And I don't know who else wants to be involved in writing, editing.
I volunteer myself. But you know, it's better that you ask on the forum, and then we are openly saying +1.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's take a note here. Draft by end of week. Post a note to the forum for editors. Okay. So I'm going to add myself here.
Yeah, John, I'll help you publish that first draft too.
All right. Okay, I'll just put that down there. Volunteered to edit, and then we'll get that out there and keep it to a handful of editors again, just to keep it manageable. But anybody can comment, and we'll just see how it works. And if we have to modify along the way, we'll modify along the way depending on how much feedback we get. Okay, top of the hour here, so I'm going to call meeting adjourned. So thanks everyone for joining the MicroProfile Live Hangout, and we're going to meet next week. We can review maybe a draft and maybe collaborate a little next week during the working group session. So I'll see everybody same bat time, same bat channel.
Amazing. Thanks everyone.
Okay,
And
thank
Kenji,
you.
thank you so much for sharing.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.